Good evening, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, it really is a good night, a late night meandering tonight. But I wanted to, so many of the letters that we get are pretty well on the same theme, usually on whether it's good for an older guy to come over here to the Philippines and marry a younger woman, whether that woman will be true to him, whether he has made the right choice, whether he's going to be happy. Another subject is whether the woman will be accepted by the man's family. That obviously, if a man is coming over here and he's in his 50s and 60s, and in my case even later, he's going to have a life behind. He's going to be leaving some kind of a life behind him, and whether that's going to be successful or not is really up to him. Now, my take on someone coming here is that they're going to have to very much be able to stand their own company. They're going to be able to. They're going to have to be able to endure and even appreciate a certain kind of aloneness, or for some it will be if you're not used to being alone, then it will be total isolation for you, because even when you are moving around, just walking around town, going into a store, anywhere where there's a crowd of people, if you go into our local store, there's a particular place to go where all you'll be surrounded by is a foreign language. Now, it's possible to come and to learn the language. There's no question about that. I don't care how old you are, even me. You're going to be able to learn the language. The only thing is that when you learn a phrase, then you need to use it. So once you've learned to say salamat, which is thank you, then instead of going around and doing whatever the person who has just helped you in a store say, and they've spoken English to you, if you then say thank you, then you've learned nothing, because it's only when something is used that it becomes really learned. So if you learn to, and I'm being a hypocrite here, okay? I should be teaching what I most need to learn, okay? So given that, and my every intention is to do it. For instance, when I used to take Talik out, and we'd go down to and have an ice cream down the road, or a drink, a soda, and when we got back, this is down 2 miles down the road on the dirt bike when we first got here, and I wanted to say, did you have fun? And so I said to Beth, how would I ask Talik if she had fun? Because yes and no are very easy in Visayan. I mean, it's the same even in Tagalog, okay? And yes is oh. You can say that, can't you? Oh. That's yes. And Hindi is no. Well, I wanted to say, did you enjoy yourself? And I would understand what she was saying in return. Usually, actually, with kids here, you have to get used to the silence with children, because they'll just look at you and go, and even those are confused for the average guy. Anyway, I learned to say Nalingao Baka, which is, did you have fun? And I haven't forgotten that phrase. Now, eventually, as you learn phrase after phrase after phrase, it all begins to cross over. So you get these isolated things, but eventually they become part of a hand. That's metaphorically speaking, okay? But they also start to, and this is the problem, you can learn to say something, and you can learn to say something very well, and then you go out and you try to use that, and if you actually seem to be indicating that you speak the language, then you will get an avalanche of the language spoken back to you. You know, you can learn one of the most common things that if you are passing, if I pass somebody on the road, for instance, I might pass a farmer on the road, and he will say, where are you going? Well, I always said down here, that way, because if I asked him, where are you going, he would tell me, and I wouldn't understand a damn thing that had been said. So you have to, the outgoing is what you always learn first, and then the incoming is a whole other thing. Because, for instance, if I want to talk about the water buffalo here, I would say carabao, carabao, carabao. When my mother-in-law refers to the carabao, she says cabao, cabao. That's not carabao, is it? To my ears, where I've just learned the word carabao, and now she's going to call it cabao. You see, there are colloquialisms which, when we're speaking English, we use colloquialisms all the time. We say things like, well, I wanted good service and I expected him to go the whole 9 yards. How would anybody know what that means? You know, dirt poor. You'd say, oh yeah, he's dirt poor. You'd say he's filthy rich. You would say pig ignorant. You would just so many things which even us English speaking people do not know the derivative. You see, I mean, I'm struggling with that one. Well, it is 12 o'clock at night. So learning the language is a very important thing. Now, when I go to dinner in the evening, we go over to Nana's every night, and we eat dinner. We have dinner as a family. Usually there's Taliklik is there, Vek is there, Nana is there, Beth and myself, and maybe Bibi might even be there, or somebody else. And so we go over there. Now, I sit and I eat my food. Occasionally, if I hear a word that I understand, I'll say to Beth, what? Yeah, I'm a real language freak, I can tell you. I'll say what, and she'll tell me in English. Well, Nana is saying this, and tell it like I answered. And the other thing is that Filipinos are terrible at being translating for you. They'll only tell you the minimum. It's that standard joke, you know, where someone takes 5 minutes to say something, and then when you say, what did he say? Oh, he said no. So you have that to deal with. But what I'm saying is that about the isolation that you as a foreigner will feel will be something that you'll have to deal with, because Filipinos are in their own country. If they act as if they own the country, think about this, they do. So you're the foreigner, and so often I used to hear people when I was in the UK, or when I was in America, if I spoke to someone and they would say, but can they speak English? Yes, they can. And so don't they speak English while you're there? No, they don't. Because they're all together and there's only you that doesn't speak the language. So why should they change everything just for you? It may seem like it's good manners and all of that, but it's not sense. They're in their own country, and you're not in your own country. So you have to learn the language, and I'm in the process of doing that now, I promise you. And if I find a good way of doing it, then I'll let you know. But if you're coming over here, it really is a good idea to learn the language. Now here's the problem, is that you have an important decision to make. You've got Tagalog, which is the national language. That's the universal here, the language that presumably everybody can speak Tagalog. This is not true. Nanay doesn't speak very good Tagalog at all. So, here I am in a hilltop community that speaks Visayan, with all its colloquialisms and sayings and little changes that they've made, which are not allowed for and have to be learned gradually, one at a time. What did that mean? Well, okay, and if you have an aged brain, not you and me, of course, but for those who do, they'll find it difficult, because it's like sometimes when you're told a particular phrase, it's like trying to take down the tyre size on a Formula One race car passing. It just doesn't seem possible. So you really have to work very, very hard. Now, which language are you going to use? If you turn on the television, which will be some source of information about what's happening in the world, if you watch a movie, it will be Tagalog. If you watch the media, it will be Tagalog. If you go out and listen to people talking, it will be Visayan. If you talk to your mother-in-law, if you talk to your father-in-law, if you talk to your sister-in-law, if you talk to anybody that's in your new family, it will be, if you're living on Bohol, of course, and certain areas, Cebu, it's going to be in Visayan. And they even change that and say Bisayan, because V is not an easily pronounceable word for the Filipinos. P, let me see, well, the Philippines is PH and it's on Phil. That's not an easy one for them to say. So they'll tend to say Philippines. So all of these have to be learned. You have to decide whether you would rather be able to communicate with your surrounding people, those people surrounding you, the people at the gas station, the people at the store, the people at anywhere, you're going to be talking Visayan. But if you want to keep abreast of things in the world, watch the media, look at a movie, you need Tagalog. The choice is up to you. I can't make up my mind. I know that I have difficulty in learning one extra language simply because everybody around me is willing to talk English. So there's so little incentive. But then when they're talking to each other and all of that laughter and fun and joking and talking about what happened during the day, sharing news, sharing opinion, all of that is in Visayan, and it's all going straight over your head. So you got to decide, and nobody can do that for you. Well, I already talked too much, so I better wrap it up. Thanks for looking in, and thanks for talking with me or listening. Bye bye for now.